This is Chris Hansen.
Chad doing Rip City Radio here.
It's your favorite basketball player, Tyler Hansbrough.
This is Jamie Hudson.
This is TJ Houshmandzadeh.
And I'm going to let y'all know something.
Duke sucks and Duke will always suck.
You're listening to
It Just Makes Sense.
It Just Makes Sense.
Football is back, and so are we, boys. Listen, this podcast is not about being right. It's about being entertaining, and sometimes right.
Oh, we bet too hard in the last 4 seasons. You can't
Take
do
the
it.
bet, bitch. Take it.
We're back.
Dabo is a big religious guy. Maybe somebody should go to him and tell him that even Jesus hit the transfer portal for 3 days.
You think you're going to go through this season undefeated? I'll cut off my dick and eat it if that happens.
Clear eyes.
Full heart.
Can't lose.
Love that energy.
Good job, Peter.
Woo!
Time in 4 seasons, you nailed that shit.
Play like a champion.
It's the best you can do.
Dude, it's week 1 for everybody.
New season, same us. Welcome to It Just Makes Sense Season 5.
Boo.
You ruined the clip. You ruined the cut.
Oh, sorry.
You ruined the clip.
You want
We
to
gotta
try
cut
again?
that. Yeah, sure. Welcome to... I don't even want to know what you're going to come back up with. So, no.
I'm just going to smile.
Just showing his teeth.
Yeah, he does just want to show his teeth. When we think about how we did this summer, Braxton got himself some new twofers.
Yeah, bitch.
Podcast money for you.
Podcast some money.
Yeah, I'm rolling in it.
Rolling in the podcast money. Well, welcome to It Just Makes Sense Season 5. If you're looking for knowledge and insight, look elsewhere.
Yeah. We're not Skip Bayless. Or maybe we are.
We're better.
We're not Shannon Sharp.
Listen, this podcast is not about being right. It's about being entertaining and sometimes right.
We're not Brian Windhorse. Fat ass.
We're half of the Brian Windhorse.
I wish I was
I'll
Brian
let you
Windhorse.
guys decide which one.
His toes.
Which half.
At least you can be happy about the fact that we're not. There's nothing more annoying than people doing podcasts that are currently playing sports. I don't think that's I think you should be retired.
Right, yeah.
Then you see something wrong with that? Like a Draymond Green doing a podcast after a game.
Super lame.
Isn't that like
Leave
imagine
it to
sitting
us.
in the locker room with him and you're like, anything I do in here is material for him.
Yeah, a little bit of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, like be done playing before you do this shit. And we're clearly fucking done.
Right, it's kind of similar to what Skip does or whomever, that you might be goading someone on the court just for content for your podcast. We don't do that.
We don't do that.
We don't do that.
We don't know shit about
We're
goats.
not that smart to do that.
And I turned down a few offers this off season.
Yeah.
To
join Hot to a Girl.
to
and
suit up and
join the Kelseys.
get out there with the squad, and I said, no, guys, I got to stay true.
Sure. Oh, well, we appreciate
You
you.
don't want to play for the Colonel Lingus?
Yeah. Yeah. Great fantasy name.
Who's
pretty good.
Colonel Lingus?
I
Colonel
am in the
Lingus.
Jimmy's League.
Oh, good for you. It just said Braxton on
I
when we were
changed it
drafting.
after.
Oh, gotcha. Did you see mine? It's a Hard Knocks Life.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, see, that's cute.
It's terrible,
the
actually.
best you can come up with?
I'm so bad at this.
And it's just COL period, like Colonel,
Mm-hmm.
and then Lingus.
Yeah. Digs in a Blanket is my other one.
Yeah, but you Googled the shit out of that.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
Well,
You didn't come up
no,
with that
I
on
feel
your
like that's
own.
kind of a chalk name. I don't feel like
Yeah,
there's...
that's not an original
Yeah,
thought.
there's nothing good about that. But you didn't like my Peter's version one from before, so I found my way out of it.
You're not very good with team names.
I'm not very good
That
at a lot
ball
of things,
too well
not
with a
even this.
parentheses. I mean, that was...
I didn't get the ball too well part.
Ball Too Well is like a play on All Too Well, which is a Taylor Swift song.
Oh,
Peter's
That's why we
version.
didn't get
Yeah.
it.
A year later, and I'm educating you, so you're welcome on that.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right, that's it.
That's all. But, okay, so we do have a lot of stuff to cover tonight in our S5 E1. Right? Yeah. Is that
Season 5, episode
season
1.
five.
Season
Got
5,
it.
yes, indeed.
Yep.
That's how I title them.
A
when
bit
I'm
slow
organizing
there.
So we
catching
have
it.
some summer happenings to go over. Then we also, including Braxton buying a house, getting new twofers, all of those things. And we're going to be diving into some college football week in review, but also previewing the things coming up. And then, obviously, it is football, baby. Football is back week 1. Preview all of that because you can only
Fantasy-
get that type of stuff from us.
Fantasy betting, losing your mind. We're back.
Jizzin.
Jizzing.
Football.
Jizz buckets. Come dumpsters.
Is so back.
Dude, fist me right now.
It's back, baby.
It's back.
I mean, okay, yeah. I was going to go over the fact that you were exposing your beehole to people during a game this past weekend. Is that?
Tell us more.
Tell us more.
It was a game called Do or Drink. It's just like, it's cards that make you do shit. But the weird part about it is you have options. So it said like, expose a body part for an entire round, or drink 5 times, or quit the game.
Oh.
And it's like,
You're like, beehole,
you
please.
can quit the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. Went face down, ass up, and spread my cheeks and made everyone stare at my asshole for an entire round. And it went a while. It was like at least 5 minutes.
And is that how you earned your Wagyu beef steak?
I mean, I was planning on getting that. But yes, I feel like I did earn it from that game.
That you still had to pay for it even after you showed people your soul.
Yeah.
All right.
It didn't feel like making my future wife pay for our 5-year anniversary dinner. I feel like I had to cover that. Along with a couple Nike gifts since we stopped by the outlet.
It's very kind of you. Congratulations.
She covered a lot of stuff that weekend too. So
And we equally have a lot of things to cover as well, including so you're going to be closing on a house here in like a day.
Less than 24 hours.
Very exciting.
welcome to being broke.
I'm a homeowner.
Yes.
And,
You're a homo, nerd?
Sir?
yeah. And got the baby on the way. Got new teeth. It's just all looking up for Braxy Tan.
Was the teeth part of the
down.
closing? Hey, so here's our final counter. New teeth.
Yeah, and she accepted, oddly enough, so.
And one of the
we
highlights
are.
of the summer was doing the little pop-up B-Town's barbecue. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
a raging success.
Is the podcast done?
Yeah, I think
Already?
we were at that point. Yeah,
It was.
So,
Yeah.
I'm sporting my JD's Smokehouse from when I was in North Carolina this past weekend.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, that was
get-
a lot of fun.
Excuse me.
So big time. But as one person buys a house, so does another person try and burn one down. I am just dying to know this story. I don't.
Oh,
Maybe it's not as good, but I hope it is.
It's really not.
Okay, so Friday night we are going. We do the our traditional fantasy football league with our friend group, spouses, all that. We're at Austin and Naoko's house.
which is not normally where it happens.
Not normally where it happens. Already throwing Juan Magoo a curveball. So we're over because the clubhouse there is closed, or we just don't go there. It was hot. Air conditioner was out. No thanks. So we go over to Austin Naoko's house. We're talking about the podcast in the backyard. You're just,
ripping my smokes,
ripping
the black and milds.
That's what they say. And I leave my laptop there, of all things. I remembered the beer, but I forgot the laptop.
Priorities.
And so the next day, while you're giving him shit about the Oregon game, Braxton goes, yeah, well, at least I didn't almost burn down Austin and Naoko's house.
And listen, I take full responsibility for the scare, but I do have to address the fact that he had nothing else to say about Oregon's really poor performance.
So he deflected.
He deflected to the fucking house
Yeah.
burning.
All right.
It worked.
But no, I feel really bad about it because she was clearly spooked. Like, her and I were texting till 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And so I was putting out. I mean, it was a warm night,
Yeah.
but I was smoking Black and Milds back there, and I was putting it out in the garden box.
You were, yes.
But I didn't, I got rid of the butts. But the live flame, the ash apparently wasn't completely dead. And it went and seeped through the fucking soil and burned the wood.
Underneath?
It burned the wood.
It was
it was in flames.
Yeah.
No way.
So
it was not good.
If she decided to...
It wasn't like a small burn.
It was a on-fire garden box.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought it
that
was...
you discovered...
So when I got home, I was in bed at 12:30.
So you weren't home. You weren't there when it happened.
No, I got this text from Naoko, and
no way.
She's like, thanks for burning or almost burning our house down. You burned our garden box or something like that. I'm like, what? And immediately I thought maybe there was a small patch of the dirt that was just set on fire, but it was just not flaming, but it was just live. It was orange, right? And she goes, no, there were flames. The box was in flames. And she's like, I'm pretty spooked. I don't do well with fire. So I'm like, holy shit, I'm so fucking sorry.
You don't think she was exaggerating? You have a photo
No, not
or
at
anything
all.
like
She
that?
took a photo and showed it to me. The box was completely charred. I'm sure you have it.
Do you have a photo?
There was a
We'll
big
show it here on the podcast.
section of it.
No way.
Yeah. It was bad.
We'll show it on our YouTube at official IJMS.
Yeah, so that front, so clearly it went through, it seeped through the dirt, and it set the front of that box on fire. And
And that is Tinder at this point.
I don't know
of the
Naoko
year.
well enough that if she was telling me something that serious, if it was one of you guys, I'm like, yeah, fuck you, you're fucking with me. So I knew right away she wasn't fucking with me. And I just kept apologizing, and I'm like, what do you need me to do? These guys know I've been smoking this forever. We've probably had 2 issues.
Yeah.
Garbage disposal and then something else. But normally I'm pretty responsible with this shit where it's not something that's going to affect anyone.
Sure.
And I'm like, I feel like an idiot for being distracted enough that I was putting out live shit. And I'm like, how did you find this? And she goes, I decided after you guys left, and it wasn't even something she was planning on doing.
Yeah.
She decided to water the plants. If she had not decided to step out and water the plants, her entire house would have been fucking
up
on
in
fire.
flames. Yeah, and at that point, it would have been way too late.
Yeah, and
my
I'm pretty
God.
sure for an entire hour, I was just apologizing to her. I'm like, I feel so fucking shitty about this. I'm so sorry to ruin your night.
And this was happening at 1 o'clock in the morning when you're having this.
She was already done putting it out, but she was just she was up because she was freaked out.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, I'm so sorry to ruin your night. I'm so sorry to traumatize you with this shit, something you don't do well with dealing with.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not, obviously, this is an accident. I'm so sorry. I just kept apologizing over and over. And I'm like,
and you're powerless to do anything at that point.
Yeah,
the damage is done,
I'm like,
literally
do I
and figuratively.
come back?
Yeah.
What do I do if I come back? Nothing. I'm just going to wake him up. I'm like, I can't do anything about the trauma that I've done, but I'm like, if there's anything at all, maybe if I ruin some plants, I can replace those. If I ruin the garden box, I can replace those. You need me to fucking do anything with my hands, I'll do it, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next day, she took a picture and sent me that, and I'm like, holy shit, that looks exactly like how I pictured it when you told me, because then I can picture the flames where the charred area was, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know, whatever it is that you need me to do, just fucking say it. I'll do it.
And she said, stop smoking.
No.
She
goes,
show me your butthole.
that'd be easier. She's like,
It's
maybe,
famous, and
she's
I
like,
agree.
maybe you can buy us lunch at some. I'm like, you name any fucking place, any day. I don't care where it is. I don't care how much it is. You just name it. I'll fucking.
I would
do it.
I would
And
probably
I'm
have
so-
some post-traumatic stress for a while if I were her, but no.
Yeah, and she's an anxious bird. That's for sure. So I can, and usually, especially when we're drinking beers, which we were that night, you always go empty can.
Yeah, and I told her, I'm like, normally I bring out an empty can, but I didn't bring out an empty can, and I just was just ashing it on the beds, which I have done there before.
Yeah.
But that didn't
Probably
match
different
up
time
with
of
a warm
year.
night and
Yeah.
all that. So
Different time of
And
year.
so the following day, Amar was in town, and Jared and I met up with them to go to the Timbers game. And college football was on, and, I'm sure we'll talk about the Ducks, but the Ducks game was on. Things weren't going necessarily as planned or hoped for. And Miguel was giving me a whole bunch of shit, and I was trying to, be present with my friends and not have this back and forth.
I was pretty hammered when I was texting that. Clearly, you see how many texts I was sending? I was drunk as shit.
I know, yeah. You can always tell when you're trying to the level of intoxication and versus your instigation via text message.
And and I think we were walking into the stadium, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Miguel's talking shit," because they were asking what you guys were up to or something like that.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Well, Miguel almost burnt my house down," and I was like,
And that was the first you heard of that?
"Yeah."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Tell me more."
I need this information.
ammo. I need ammo.
I need it.
I need anything right
Anything
now.
right now. Things are
And
not
so,
going well.
and that's when I popped back, and I was like, "At least I didn't burn Naoko's house down."
And if you check those texts, I'm like, I didn't even come back to sports. I was like, yeah, I still feel really shitty
Yeah,
about
sure.
that.
Yeah. Well,
But no, she was like, the next day she goes, because I felt like shit for
yeah.
fucking days. Like,
I mean,
still.
gosh, like-
And she's like, I'm just giving you a hard time. Like, I know it was an accident. Obviously, you're not going to try and burn our house down.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, but, I could tell without people telling me that she's an anxious person.
Sure.
And that something like that wouldn't sit well longer than like another compared to another person. So I get like why that would stay with her for a while.
And that's the thing. You probably would have, and not to say you would have gotten over it quicker had it been at one of our houses, but it probably would have been easier.
Yeah, you probably would have.
You probably would have. It's just kind of like, again, like we love Austin and Naoko, but like we haven't known them for a decade the way that we've known each other. So
And it was funny because the following night we met up with them again and went out to Hot Pot, and I was talking with Amar and Austin, and Amar and his girlfriend Sahara were staying with them, so they were all riding together to go to the Hot Pot place, and it somehow got brought up again, the burning box.
yeah,
And-
never live it down.
And Amar was like, "Yeah, I think she's a little freaked out by it, because when we left to go to Hot Pot, we were like 10-15 minutes away from the house, and Naoko was like, I think I left my
Right.
hair dryer plugged in."
Yeah, like literally everything starts shooting through, and you get super nervous about it.
And so-
She's got post-traumatic stress because
And
of
so,
you.
and
or multiple.
they were like, "Well, it's your hair dryer, not like your curling iron or anything. And if it's just plugged in, like that should be fine." And she was like, "No, we have to turn around."
Oh, no way. You
Yeah.
turned around, actually. Wow.
So they turned around and went back. So, but anyways, it was funny at the game though.
was it still on or plugged in or whatever?
I don't know.
It didn't
I
matter.
I didn't
guess,
ask at that point.
Yeah.
But it was funny at the game because you mentioned how many times you were apologizing. She did say, "Yeah, he feels really bad about it. He's apologized like too much."
I was
Too
like,
much.
because
too
it's
much.
like it's not anything I can fix.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You.
Like there's maybe I could help with the garden box if they accepted it, but ultimately what really affected her is nothing I can fix.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I've
it's-
just like changed her forever.
Exactly. Yeah. You have traumatized
Yeah.
this poor
I'm
woman.
like, what do I do? Like, you present a problem to me that I'm responsible for and I can't fix it. Nothing drives
And
me.
now
crazier.
Austin's never going to be able to go for a run again because he's going to be too worried about this is this is a
probably
big
for the
problem.
best.
Yeah, you need to do a lopsided trade.
That's you bringing up some slimy shit. She would never. She's a straight
You
edge,
need-
good person.
You need to do
Yeah,
a
he's got a
lopsided
point.
trade.
She wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
She wants no help, especially from no man.
yeah.
This
from
is
someone who's trying
exactly
to
why-
destroy her livelihood.
This is exactly why I'm always going to feel bad for doing it to her, of all people. Because if I did burn one of your guys' house down, and then you hit me with a, well, you got to give me CD Lamb for
For Derrick Henry.
for somebody
straight
who's
up.
retired.
Yeah. For that
CeeDee Lamb for Jared Goff.
300-pound halfback or whatever, fullback that the Chargers have now. Not a bad pickup, possibly.
Sorry, Naoko, if you're watching.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sure she is. But other than that, great weekend, right? Huh?
football's back, baby.
Football's back. It was nice. It was nice. You know, it's week one college, which is, and I kind of like how college does it, where, you know, they sprinkle in, you know, the important or good games in the first 2
They have
weeks.
a ramp-up stage.
Exactly.
A ramp-up stage.
You know, so you're not getting just bukkakied with, you know, top 25 matchups left and right. It's like, oh, here's one, here's another.
Ease into it a little bit,
You know.
one each day. So
Exactly.
when did you know that football was back? When did it feel like football is back?
Well, I woke up fairly early on. Was that Saturday when Clemson and Georgia?
Were playing. Yeah, it was a 9 o'clock kick.
Yeah, and that when I sat down and turned that on, it was like, all right.
I think
this is good stuff.
Remember when we were having a conversation, I think it might have been you that said, like, I don't know, it took a while for you to, like, soak in that it's football season.
Yeah.
And I think for me is, like, once we have our draft, like our fantasy draft on Friday, and then Saturday with Oregon, Idaho, Oregon State, Idaho State, and then the USC LSU game, that's when I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Saturday, and then had another draft last night, and then I'm fully submerged in football.
See, because I was hoping, and we'll get to Georgia and Clemson here in a second, because we're not going to let Clemson off the hook here. I was hoping that I would feel like football was back in that game, but when I really felt like football was back was the Notre Dame Texas A&M game.
Yeah, that was a great game.
That, like, at Kyle Field, 100,000 people. And what happened was is that they went ahead, and by they I mean Texas A&M brought back power to Aggieland and Kyle Field. And I wanted to show this video when people realized that they had brought back Kanye West power to Kyle Field. And at first, I was wondering what in the world happened to power. And the thing is that Kanye West was canceled a couple years ago, and so they had gotten rid of Power, this, like, one of the most infamous walk-up intro songs in college football, in favor of a band called Surfaces, which is half-led, it's an EDM band, half-led by a Texas A&M cross track and field athlete, which kind of sounded like Kanye West Power anyways. But it was never really the same. People had petitioned to bring Power back and everything. But, like, when that, like, I mean, for people, you know the song, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like such an iconic
Is,
song.
Like, what made him decide is Kanye back? and
Apparently, it
uncanceled?
has been long enough.
Oh yeah, we just like let some time pass, right?
He hasn't popped his mouth off any time recently. And I thought that, so then you have that intro, right, which is accompanied by what happened with Marcus Freeman, where he's with his offensive line and he is just as fired up there. And I wanted to talk about that moment because after seeing that pregame and then to see how Notre Dame responded in that game, I'm not usually all in on Notre Dame, but given their response in that game, given where their schedule is for the rest of the year, I am not going to say all in on Notre Dame this year, but that might be one of my teams that I am saying that team.
You wouldn't be surprised if they win the whole thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went on
Because
to
really
win the whole thing.
The only person that's ever stopped Notre Dame from winning the whole thing was Brian Kelly. Marcus Freeman is he's a player's coach. And these players fucking love him. They get the same recruits, if not better. Brian Kelly's always held him back.
Yeah,
for that powerhouse of a program, I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all.
And here's another look of Marcus Freeman, just there while Power's playing and all this other stuff. He is meeting that moment.
Rocking the white pants.
Yeah. On the sidelines, challenging his players, challenging the 100,000 people all around him as well. That guy was ready to go to war with his team, and you could tell. And so just by seeing that, I was just so hyped up for that team.
Now you're
from
an
Notre
Irish?
Dame. I'm a big old Fighting Irish.
Well, and they're in a
fan.
really good position, being one of the few independent teams
Exactly.
left.
Yes.
That they're, as long as they, hold it to one loss throughout this season, they're going to have that number 5 spot.
And then they will play the least favorable team, and then they will find their way. They may have to play an extra game.
Yeah.
But when all is said and done with their schedule, meeting this moment here, maybe it's overblown, maybe it's overhyped, but this told me this was what I heard was like a perception win. It's more than a win, right? This win did so much more for them as a team, I felt, just like immediately. Just like on the other side, when you think about like a Florida State or a Clemson, where they had their losses, but those were even deeper. Those were perception losses. How would you feel to be Florida State right now? It is September 4th, and your season is effectively over. Insane.
Were they expected to be that good? They had a bunch
Top
of key
10
players,
AP. Top
but they
10
had a
AP.
bunch of key players leave.
I don't know if they were expected to be that good, but they weren't expected to be this bad. That's for
not
damn
two loss
sure.
bad. I get that. 2 loss bad is bad. But
And especially to the teams they lost to.
they're not they don't load up the same way that a Bama or Ohio State.
No, but they do have, top 10 recruiting power for sure. And I mean, they were undefeated a year ago. You would think they'd be able to come out, especially with that, that vigor that they had from, being kept out of the playoff and all that bullshit that happened last year.
Right.
You would think they would come into this season with like, hey, we've got something to prove. We should very easily be able to trounce a Georgia Tech and a Boston College team. And
Is their quarterback the same guy?
No, it's
no,
DJU.
it's DJU.
Yeah, see, I'm not making excuses for them, but that Florida State last year was successful because of Jordan Travis. I think I would be more shocked if it was Jordan Travis getting them these 2 losses.
Yeah.
He was the reason why they were
What
fucking
happened to him?
undefeated. He was injured. I don't know where he
Yeah.
went.
Did he go to the NFL? Did he transfer?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like I
Something
said,
to think about.
you're not here for all that knowledge.
Something to think
You're
about.
here for the entertainment.
Look it up at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
DJU is trash.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, he got absolutely dragged this past weekend, and rightfully so, because I mean, this is now you've lost on 2 continents already in this college football season. Your season effectively over by the time you hit Labor Day, and there was, and I wanted to bring this up.
He's like Kevin Durant of college football, except he's not as good. He just keeps going to where he thinks he could win.
I wanted to bring this up, and that's so true, is that in our first week, I had this loaded up, and this was from a few weeks ago, but it was in 18 of the last 20 seasons, a preseason top 10 has finished unranked in the AP poll. And then it showed a picture of the top 10. It says, who do you think that this year's team is going to be? And we couldn't even get to our first episode to where we already know who that is going to be, which is at least Florida State. So
Yeah.
not good. Not good.
Not good at all. and yeah, watching those games, it's like, oh, why? Why
Yeah.
were they? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they were ranked that high because of the success they had last year, but gosh, they did not look good.
Preseason polls, that just shows you that they don't fucking matter at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're fun.
They are
They
fun.
get
you going.
Get
some people going.
That's what makes it worse for Florida State, is because the teams that could really take advantage of a preseason AP poll are the powerhouse programs. Because all you need to do is keep that ranking. You know, like Alabama will play fucking Alabama State and Furman and all this shit.
For sure.
Just keep winning those. You're already number one. It's much harder to climb it than just keep your spot. So that's where they failed big time. It's like you were given a pretty good spot and you just blew it.
Sure, and I mean, and naturally, like the AP poll is not indicative of what happens in the college football playoff. However, it is at least a guide, right? And with your AP top 10, you had Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, and Florida State. So before we get to Oregon and other games, I wanted to bring it back to Clemson and their not just loss, but trouncing. And I wanted to get your guys' take on that program, Dabo Swinney, and where they are as a program with Dabo's resistance to the NIL, and kind of that's how you got to where you got at this point.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that either you conform or you leave. Because, and I don't think that Clemson is going to like put that type of an ultimatum on him. But for his legacy, which I feel is a fairly important thing to these college coaches, especially ones like Dabo, he's in a position where, you know, you look up the teams that had no players from the transfer portal over this last year. It's Clemson and then the military schools. Those are the only ones who didn't have a single player picked up through the transfer portal. And obviously, as you saw in that game, and you know, they're playing Georgia. So, you know, that's number one team in the nation, expected to win the national championship. So, you know, you can, you know, go from that and not think that it's a total loss on the season. But if I'm Dabo and if we fast forward 10 weeks and, you know, have 2-3 losses, I would think that you got to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror and say, am I still, you know, able to continue doing this and keep my foot so firmly planted on the ground, saying I'm not going to conform, I'm not going to adjust. This is how Clemson and I are going to, you know, handle recruiting and things of that nature, and that's that. Or do you say, hey, the game has passed me.
Sure.
If I, you know, step back now after this season, I can still be remembered as an incredible collegiate coach, one of the best, you know, of this decade or of this era, and kind of just go into the distance.
I don't think it's just Dabo, though. Like, I think it's also the program's decision. Because what you'll notice with a lot of powerhouse schools is they take turns. It's like when Clemson is good, there are certain ones you don't hear about. Like Florida's died off. Florida State's died off. Miami's died off. And now we're seeing the decline of Clemson, and we're seeing Miami like climb
on the
up.
rise, yeah.
You know, so it's not just a Dabo decision, but as a program, it's like, okay, if we have a coach who we can hold on to the memories and he was successful in the past, but maybe we need a change of scenery. Miami did that with Mario, right? So maybe a change is what it needs for a fresh start, some new energy.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. I think for the legacy's sake, it's much better for him to make the decision to retire instead of, you know, Clemson coming through, you know, the AD or whoever and being like, hey, we got to move on.
I don't feel as though if he changes and goes about face on this and starts accepting doing the NIL transfer portal, all of that, then anyone you might get some people, but at a certain point, it's like you do what you have to do to survive and advance. You do what you do to win championships. Coach K, he didn't want one and doners. He didn't want that. Eventually, he took them. Right, and they ended up winning championships because of that. So I mean, it's just, Are
you saying Dabo doesn't have enough clout that even if he were to play in the sandbox in the NIL world, that he wouldn't be able to pull?
No, I think he absolutely. I think that you're mistaking my point. I'm saying that I don't think that people will burn him for actually changing his mind.
Yeah.
Right? Just being like, okay, I've changed my mind and this is how it goes, right?
People would accept that this is what you have to do.
You innovate. This guy
you'll get left
is
behind.
in a self-righteous position where it is now bearing its fruit, and it's not good fruit.
And
for
that's
him.
the thing is in college football specifically, there hasn't been anyone of the stature of a Coach K that's done it. Everyone has just been yeah, I mean, this is what we have to do now. But do you know how scary that was for the college basketball world that Coach K decided, I'm going to play there with you guys.
Yeah.
The best to say, I'll give in, I'll play.
Yeah, but he didn't want to.
There's there's coaches leaving there going, it's over.
Yeah.
He's that would be like a Nick Saban or Urban Meyer going, I'll play this game.
Yeah.
Then it's fucking game over. That's terrifying.
Sure. And eventually it got to Nick Saban where he just goes, I don't think this is really fun anymore. And then he gets out. And so that's the thing with Dabo Swinney is that he was always viewed as the man in waiting for the Alabama job. He played at Alabama. He was in the conversation for a championship every year before the NIL. He didn't get an interview. He did an interview at Alabama this time around, and it's because of that. They weren't going to allow him to bring his non-NIL and say, we're just going to do this on talent. It's not going to work. And so it's just you're in this position where you're not evolving, you're non-conforming, you feel like you're going to be able to spout a prophecy and will this. It's not going to happen. And it's going to be to Clemson's demise. And so you say, oh, is it the program? They go as Dabo goes, and he don't want to go there. But I don't think that anyone would fault him in the end. Some people would call him a hypocrite, be like, look at everyone else.
Yeah, but
Who cares?
those people will
Who
always be
cares?
around.
Yeah.
Gives a shit.
You're never going to win everyone, right? And so
And that's really what it comes down to. Like I said, I
dug
think
your grave.
you either adapt or you bounce.
Or die.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, either way, you're going to have to kind of, swallow your pride a little bit to either say, hey, I was wrong, I've got to change, or, hey, I'm just not fit for, coaching the game anymore. It's grown past me.
Yeah. And I think that it's okay to admit that.
I mean, he's not at the end of the rope. He could just take a step back and just take a moment to just think if he wants to continue doing it, and then come back in a year or two, coach a different program. Where he decides that he's going to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still going to be a sought-after coach.
Well, and that's I think is the concern, is if you do take this hard stance and you don't, put your guns down, in a sense, are you going to continue to be that sought-after coach? Because since NIL has become a thing in these last couple years, it has very quickly become hey, you've got to adapt. You've got to hit this transfer portal for you to be successful. And, 95% of Division I has accepted it, has kind of taken it in stride. So now if you have this headstrong coach who, has some history of being good, but that was a different era, do you lose your value by, keeping your position? So
I think as an instant
steadfastly.
hire, as a sought-after instant hire, yes, but he'll get conversations. He's done enough to be able to get a conversation with anyone. But it would be a conversation
Except Alabama. You didn't get a conversation with Alabama.
Well, and
I know that he's got a job, but I mean, like,
I think what his resume speaks for itself. He'll get a conversation, but I don't think it's an instant hire. Like, it's going to be a conversation of, hey, are you willing to change?
Yeah, that's going to be question number one in every single interview.
And I think that if he does step away or he does elect to eventually take on NIL and the transfer portal and such, that maybe he just finds a way that it works for him so that he can kind of like mentally be out of it, stay out of it. He's got some sort of coordinator. He just kind of accepts it. He just like, prays about it and moves on. But the thing is, I think he's just kind of an old ball coach, stuck in his ways. And
I heard somebody say, because Dabo is big religious guy.
Yeah.
And,
been tiptoeing around that.
And somebody, I forget who said this, but they were like, maybe somebody should go to him and tell him that even Jesus hit the transfer portal for 3 days.
God, he would lose his mind.
And he came back.
Yeah, you see him running down that to the transfer portal, indeed.
How dare you?
So, Miguel, you were talking about a team that is on the up and up. That is the Miami Hurricanes. Who knows for how long? But I know one reason possibly why. It is because good old Cam McCormick, that name may sound familiar, scores a touchdown for the U this past weekend in his 9th season in college football. Former Oregon Duck, who has had, I think, 4 different injury exceptions, is now in his 9th season. You give Bo Nix a bunch of shit. This guy actually has been in college football for 9 years.
27.
It's insane.
That's impressive.
That's like
matters.
Mormon age. That's like Mormon mission age without ever doing the mission.
I mean, that's even older than the
I don't even know this guy. What position does he play?
tight end.
Tight end, yeah.
Yeah.
He was actually one of the guys who was hospitalized. I'm pretty sure this is right. During the Willie Taggart, remember when all the guys were getting like exercised too much, and then they were like ended up getting like weird shit in their blood, and then they had to go to the hospital and they almost died.
Conditioning issues.
Yeah, so
he's a pussy.
yeah,
That's what we were getting
that's
at.
what we were getting at.
ran you too hard, Cam.
Ran
you too hard.
I wanted to do a buy or sell, if you guys wouldn't mind, on a few teams. You guys already heard me. I am buying Notre Dame.
I'm
What
buying
about
Notre
you
Dame
guys?
for sure.
Sorry, but there's no way that they don't, because of the position they're in, where they're, first of all, they're a good team. No doubt about it. They're not in a conference, which obviously there's a downside to that, going to keep them out of the top 4.
Right.
But there's no way they don't get that number 5 or 6 spot.
Right.
They have nobody in front of them to keep them from doing that.
I am ready to take the bet now that they will not only make it to the playoff, likely the number 5 seed, but they will be in the championship and potentially, I'm not saying they're going to win it, but I'm going to go as far as to say that they will be in the championship game this year.
That bet with him because I'm a believer in Irish this season.
Do you want that?
I'll think about it.
You'll pray about it? You'll
Yeah.
Dabo Swinney it? Okay,
Yeah.
well, get your answer here.
Oh, we bet too hard in the last 4 seasons. We can't
Take
do
the
it.
bet, bitch. Take it.
Okay.
$50.
20.
Okay.
What's the bet?
I don't know, but I'm betting that
I mean,
they're
establish the bet.
You're betting that Notre Dame will be in the national championship.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm saying they won't.
I feel it's good enough bet for me.
That's 20. You're
Yeah.
doing a 20 for a season-long bet.
Yeah, why not? I mean, but
It's episode 1, brother.
yeah, we've got more bets to come. We're
It's
gonna
week
be
1 for everyone.
going to doing division winners here.
I just
coming
think
up, the
I do
NFL.
agree, which is rare. I agree with Peter. It speaks a lot. Like, you got to decide how you want to judge college football teams. Do you care about September wins? And you go, well, it's early on in the season. You care more about November, December wins? Because here's the thing. They have played together. They've gone through it. They're more put together as a team. They've gelled more as a team. So I expect, if you're a good team, I expect November wins. I expect December wins. But to win in early September at a place like Kyle Field against a team that is either equal or better than you,
Yeah.
that is a massive fucking win. That is a huge win. That says a lot about them because they're not going to get worse. They're only going to get better in a month or two.
Yeah.
And right now, obviously, they have a few more cupcake games with Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio. Then they have ranked Louisville, which who knows if they'll be ranked then, but Louisville right now, number 22. Then you've got Stanford at home, whoop-de-doo. Georgia Tech is, right there in the middle of October. Tech right now, number 23. But then you go Navy at that Navy game, I'm pretty sure is, the Army game is the one that's at Yankee Stadium. But then they've got Florida State. That would have been a big game. Who knows if Florida State can bounce back? Maybe they try and play spoiler at that time of the year. Who knows?
Notre Dame.
How many other continents they choose to lose on?
Then
between
this
now
brings
and then.
us a really good Notre Dame USC game.
It does. Which then that's the final game that's at the Coliseum. Buy or sell on USC.
I'm going to sell.
Miller Moss, my favorite
USC
quarterback.
looks good. Yeah, I get that, Brian Kelly just losing in the beginning of the season with LSU is becoming a tradition, but
Yeah.
LSU is still a good team even with Brian Kelly. USC looked really good.
They did.
They looked really good.
I mean, they opened that game with that catch, right? Or one of the first plays is the catch of the season.
This did not look like a fluke win. They looked like they've been playing together at least for an entire season. I'm buying USC all the way.
Do you think?
I feel like I do every year.
You do.
I feel like I do. I'm going to admit that. But this team,
better without Caleb Williams.
I wouldn't say that.
No?
I feel like Caleb Williams, the reason I bought USC last year is because I thought Caleb Williams was really good. But I think this team has more pieces around it. You relied on Caleb Williams and
that's
and
where
Rice,
I was going with that.
Brendan Rice last year.
That it's kind of again, when you think about a team versus a few players that kind of elevate your team in a way. And not to say that they, again, sorry, that they weren't to that level. It almost just seems like they're looking for many guys. This isn't any one person's team, it feels like
And
to me.
traditionally, USC, the USC football teams, the really good ones, they didn't have a Caleb Williams type quarterback. They had a Miller Moss type quarterback.
Sure.
From the Leinarts to the Barkleys to John David Booty. I mean, they all look the same. It's the same prototype quarterback. It's not a scrambler like Caleb Williams with a strong arm that could chuck it anywhere. I'm buying this team more just because I think they have more pieces.
Yeah, they're definitely more balanced, and I think that they're going to be better because of that. But USC is one of those programs where I need to see more. I'm not saying I'm totally out on them, but if you're asking me at this moment, I'm going to say sell.
Right. And so, I mean, we've talked about the, schedule, and obviously, USC is going to be far more in the gauntlet than Notre Dame.
Yeah, they've got a very tough schedule.
I mean, just coming up, they've got Michigan at the Big House. Then they're just in Big Ten play. Wisconsin, that's going to be at USC. But I mean, you're going to be October 5th, Minnesota. That's not going to be bad. Minnesota sucks. Penn State, you've got at home. Then you've got Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, and then that game at the end. So not the worst schedule, but there's...
I thought they had Ohio State.
They do
don't.
not.
Well,
No, they do not.
that's luck.
And so, again, 12-team playoff, you lose a couple games, it's not the end of the year, right? You can find your way into the playoff with a couple of losses here and there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the Big Ten across the board. It seems like with all the additions, almost everybody has a pretty tough schedule. But like I said, I got nothing against USC. Not necessarily my favorite team by any means, but yeah, ask me week 3 and I'll tell you if I'm ready to buy.
okay. What about
when we're going through all these teams, West Coast teams, I will put myself on that bias train where I'm I have never looked at the Pac-12 as yeah, like this is it. I'm with the East Coast people. So I think it is going to be a rude fucking awakening to play in the Big Ten. I think people are downplaying the shit out of that. Like, I think people are downplaying the fact that Oregon, UW, USC, UCLA, like, they're all in the Big Ten. Like, they think they're going to run through it the same way that they did Pac-12. Yeah, we cannibalize each other because we're all really good. No, you weren't. These teams were not consistently good.
You're all
like,
kind of
the
average.
South and the Midwest is a completely different fucking animal when it comes to football. And everyone on the West Coast have just always said, well, the reason we have an average 7-5 is because we're all really good. No, you're not. You are completely, like, downplaying the fact that you're playing teams like Purdue and Minnesota and all this, and you think that's an easy win. Those teams are better when you're playing regular season in the Pac-12 and Pac-10. So when people think that, like, a good Oregon team or a good USC team is just going to run through the Big Ten, you are out of your fucking mind. You're out of your fucking mind. When you lose to Purdue, then let's have a conversation.
Sure.
Oh, that was a fluke. That didn't happen. Because Minnesota and Purdue, these teams are good. They're shit compared to Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, but they're good teams.
Yeah, and as you're kind of talking about that, and I'm looking at Ohio State, we're not going to do buy and sell on Ohio State, but you think about these teams that have been in the Big Ten, it's almost kind of like when you're in a heavyweight fight or you're a playoff-ready team or something like that. You kind of like know when to exert your energy, right? And I wonder if like a team like Oregon or even USC or something like that might misinterpret or misunderstand when that energy needs to be exerted.
Like when you need to turn it on versus
sense?
taking it easy.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like this is a battle-tested gauntlet team like Michigan, Ohio State. Maybe that's short-sighted of me, but then again, what isn't a take that I make?
Does that mentality exist? Yes, but I think that exists, and like one, maybe two teams every season can get away with that.
Yeah.
And you see it right away. You don't see it from the preseason AP poll, but you see it within the first 2 weeks. And those teams are the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world in the last few years. Like, those are the only teams that can afford to decide, let's pump the brakes a little and just go half speed because we're going to kill them. No other team has that luxury. You know right away who that is. Mm-hmm. And this year, I think that's Georgia. I think that's Georgia. With that fucking whatever his name, that experienced quarterback, and just how they reload and who they get to stay.
They do have Alabama this year. It's not as consequential as other years, but right.
I think it's fucking Georgia.
Before I get into, and I want to get your take. Is there a team like he's talking about? It seems that he's buying on Georgia. Not a hot take.
We know who he's going to say.
But who are you going to buy on? And don't say Oregon, because I want to talk about Oregon here in a second.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Ohio State with Chip Kelly as OC. Again, not necessarily the hottest take, but neither was Notre Dame. If you're kind of looking up and down.
I think the team I would buy on is probably Texas. I think that they're obviously in the SEC. They're going to deal with much more difficult opponents. But I think that even if they don't win the conference, they're going to get into the playoff, and they're going to do well.
Why is Arch Manning the QB? What happened to Quinn Ewers?
No, it was just at the end of the game.
Yeah, he just was.
That was garbage time
That was
TD.
garbage time. Yeah.
Oh,
that was no time there at all. And the next one that I want to talk about, which we've already talked about Cam McCormick, Mario Cristobal a little bit. Buy or sell on Miami before we get to Oregon.
Buy.
Yeah, agreed.
Why?
I just think that they have the pieces. You said Cam McCormick, but I really like Cam Ward.
Yeah, I know. Cam McCormick is not at all going to be the guy. It's just ironic.
The thing with Miami is they have never really suffered with recruits. They've always been in their backyard, but having an experienced quarterback transfer is huge. But they did that move where they changed it. They changed the scenery and brought Mario in. And I think you just needed that, just one switch to be different. And I think that changed the whole program where now they even if you fake it till you make it, but people believe in that program. It's like, hey, we've always been the U, but people are not necessarily buying into that right now. And then you get a couple wins. It's a different environment. It's a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
It only takes a couple wins for everyone to jump on board. And there's enough confidence there for you to be like, yeah, we're back. We're it. We've always been it.
And then what is this? His third year?
Cristobal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's year 3.
So it's like it's his team completely. It's, all his recruits, all his transfers. So I think the buy-in that they have from top to bottom is also going to be a huge factor.
I mean, for me, it's the schedule. It's all that, and it's a schedule, right? I mean, when we look at Vodtech shit the bed against Vanderbilt this past weekend. Boy, howdy, is that Clemson Vodtech game going to be amazing for us later this year. But, they've also got Louisville on their schedule. Once again, who knows where Louisville's going to be at. Then they've got Georgia Tech also on their schedule. Who knows where Georgia Tech's going to be at towards the end of the year. And then, you're going to have – there's an ACC championship game, right? Yep. So then you're possibly playing in that game against – not Florida State, who knows?
The bad
what
Miami teams in the last few years have been, on the heels of the ACC championship. That's when they were bad, just because ACC is not that strong.
Yeah.
So I think they have a really good shot of playing.
And thinking, too, this first year, if Miami is that 12th or 13th team, they're 100% in, Yeah. Right, you want the U in the first college football playoff.
A program like the U just rides cockiness and confidence.
Yeah,
and
they're the 85 Bears.
You sprinkle that a little bit. That's all you need to get them to believe. It's like like I said earlier, fake it till you make it. But you get a win or two in there, you get those guys preaching that. You get them talking shit to the Florida dudes. You get them talking shit to the Florida State guys. We're the program.
Yeah,
we started this. You come to us.
Yeah, you're going up to their recruits after the game.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If it only takes a little bit for them to get that, and you don't need to necessarily, bring that in the program, and it naturally, organically gets there, then I think that's a great thing for a fucking program.
Yeah.
Enough history.
So Oregon.
Sell and a half.
Sell and a half?
Sell at 70% off.
So
worse than outlets.
Oregon has
flea market,
a 10-point win,
free on Craigslist.
43-point favorite.
49 and a half.
49 is what it ranked.
Yes.
Okay. Dylan Gabriel, a good stat line, but didn't necessarily take any large risks down the field. Stayed in the pocket, didn't use his feet. That's by design. Obviously, they're not going to do that early in the season. But the biggest issue that I saw was the Ducks' offensive line.
Thank you.
Absolutely brutal. I mean, they allowed 3 sacks in that game. All on, the blind side of Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, now you have a left-handed quarterback, whatever. But not only did they allow those sacks, then you had some procedural penalties, all of that. And that will be a concern if in the, 2 or 3 years leading up to that, you allow 5 sacks total. And you allow 3 sacks against Idaho. Naturally, a better team than maybe some people gave him credit for. You had Jack Lane, or whatever the hell the guy's name is, from Lake Oswego, who was the starting quarterback for the Vandals. What say you, Braxton?
Before Braxton says anything, I'll tell you this. All right? And if you can get away from what I would call any homer takes on the Oregon Ducks, regardless of stats, sacks allowed, sacks from the defense, what has been a consistent issue with the Oregon Ducks football team in the last 8 years?
I bet you'll tell us.
8 to 10 years. Both lines.
Yeah.
It's always been both lines because they're laser focused on getting track stars, the absolute fastest athletes, the best catchers, the best runners. That's their main focus. Nobody ever looks at improving the fucking O-line or the D-line. I don't give a shit if they allowed how many sacks. That's always been the glaring blemish of Oregon, is line. And the fact that this dude got sacked 3 times by the Idaho defense, if you're not fucking concerned, I mean, I'm giving them away for free on the Nextdoor app fucking immediately. You're talking about Natty. I don't know if you'll get through Wisconsin. I don't know if you'll get through Purdue, let alone Michigan in the big house, fucking Ohio State looking for revenge at Autzen. You think you're going to go through this season undefeated? I'll cut off my dick and eat it if that happens.
Write that down.
Yeah.
It's on video.
Yeah, it is on video.
Yeah.
And before no.
Here's my thoughts. Do I think that it was a bad showing? Absolutely. Do I absolutely agree with you, Miguel? The weakness that Oregon has had historically is their lines. And especially knowing and following the recruiting and transfer portal efforts that Lanning had put in this year to get, the Big Ten SEC size and caliber of, linemen on both sides of the ball, and to see what happened on Saturday was definitely disappointing. However, I do think that there is some, not a ton of weight, but some weight that could be put towards, this is a team that's fairly new and fresh, a lot of transfers, a lot of new recruits, a lot of these guys, it's their first time playing with one another. Excuse me. And you got to be honest, if I'm 18 to 22 years old and I'm on that Oregon team playing Idaho, you probably walked out onto that field thinking it's over, which is never a good thing, especially in college football. But regardless of those, of that reasoning or excuses, it didn't look great. There's no doubt about it. Do I think that all of a sudden the season is over, that they're packing their bags and it's done? Absolutely not. I think that Dan Lanning is a good enough coach to make an example of what occurred on Saturday and to turn this ship around. At the end of the day, a win's a win, and we're on to Boise State.
A win is a win. So, yes, you can be concerned by certain things, but it wasn't a loss. So I agree on that. A win is a win, and you'll forget about this. I agree with the third point you made. Overlooking teams is stupid, but that's something I'd be like, okay, if you fucking overlook them because they're Idaho, I get it.
Yeah, they're fucking Idaho.
But I don't.
A lot of people were in that same situation and won 49-0, 76-0.
Right. So that's the point I was about to make. Oregon no longer, not this season, no longer belongs in that category that we're new, we got transfers, and we got to figure this out.
Everyone's got
you are in the top tier, like we all agree with getting Dylan Gabriel. You are in the top 10 of this season. You do not have any right to even use that as an excuse, because Notre Dame has that, Alabama has that, so many other powerhouse teams, they have that same situation. They fucking figured it out. You can't use that. Overlooking a team, I get it. They can use that, but not having brand new players.
Yeah, it turned the Oregon-Boise State game this upcoming weekend into, for anyone with any interest in Oregon, must-see to see how they're going to respond. Because, again, it's not a loss, but you could almost treat it like one where you learn a lot more from maybe a close game versus a trouncing or whatever. But, I mean, again, like they wanted to get so many different guys on the field, and they weren't able to do that.
Also, I do agree. Lanning is a good enough coach. This is not like – it's not like Oregon is going to crumble and fall apart. They'll bounce back and do better. But the thing that's concerning, no matter how you feel about Oregon, is you joined a league that puts all their focus on an offensive line and a defensive line. The corn-fed,
big
fucking big-ass dudes.
Batters,
Wisconsin is running back you. They run behind buildings out there. And the fact that you joined that conference and this is your weak part, I don't know, bro.
Well, Wisconsin runs the air raid now, so
But
something
you
to think about it.
understand the point.
Yeah, I
You
do. I definitely
understand.
do, and I'm not going to be like so blind to the fact that that it did not look good. I'll be the first to admit it, and I'm also never really thought that this year we were going to have an undefeated team, but I still believe that this is a team that can win the Big 12 or Big 10. I definitely think that is well within our capabilities. I don't think that a week one, scrappy game that we ended up winning by double digits against Idaho is all of a sudden the, projection of how this whole season
Do you
is
still think
going.
they can win the whole thing?
Absolutely.
Well, you've
Absolutely.
already got the bet, so we don't need to put that back on.
Yeah.
But let's see. So again, that Oregon game is at what time? Is that a night game?
It is.
Yeah.
And I think, just like you said, Pete, that this Boise State game is going to be a real temperature check. I think that it would be incredibly advantageous for the Ducks to come out and step on the throats of Boise State.
Right, especially with again some of the history that Oregon's had with Boise State and such.
Maybe punch somebody again.
It's certainly not the best game of the weekend. Obviously, the best game of the weekend is the first game of the weekend with Texas and Michigan. Texas, a 7.5 point.
Is that Saturday morning?
It is at 9:00. The first game, over under 42.5 points. I might hammer the over on that, but Texas.
What's the spread?
7.5 in favor of Texas.
Is it at Texas?
It is at Michigan. So I mean that's even more. But again, like Michigan's going through it. They've got obviously a new coach. They've lost some key players. They've got those allegations. Blah blah blah. That is the biggest game. Obviously there are. Are there any other ranked ones? Let me look here. I think there might be. Tennessee and NC State. Again, that's Tennessee is an 8.5 point favorite on the road. Who knows? Maybe App State gives Clemson a run for its money there.
Is that it, really?
That's the
I swear when I looked on this day, there's several interesting games. Maybe not
ranked, yeah, but those are of the ranked ones is what you've got.
We've learned our lesson with ranked games.
Oregon, a
Bunch of people look like shit.
19.5 point favorite over Boise. Bet that.
We'll see.
Do you want Boise at 19.5?
Not on a comeback game after barely beating Idaho. I feel like that'd be
I feel like if we're going to make that bet, that's going to be like a Saturday morning.
Okay.
Or it's a night game. We're
Yeah,
going to have
you'll
plenty.
see how you're feeling.
We're gonna have plenty of time to get
Idaho by
boozed up.
10. I can see Oregon winning like 73-0.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, it's in their best interest that they do that.
Is it at Autzen?
It's at odds.
Yeah.
Perfect day, 80 degrees at game time, allegedly.
And especially, going into week 3 against Oregon State, where obviously blood's going to be boiling. There's a whole lot of other reason to play that game besides just, having fun. And it's another game on the schedule. Like, it's a rivalry week. Oregon State always loves to be the, excuse me, what's the word I'm looking for? The spoiler for Oregon. So it's, if we have the Idaho week 1 and we're coming into week 2 and aren't able to trounce Boise State, then it's like, okay, then you got to be real worried about this Oregon State rivalry.
Oregon's got to leave no doubt coming into that game. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you've got to reestablish the confidence for sure. Because I know at those practices this week, it's not feeling like a win to those players.
No, not at all.
Yeah, let's do NFL. Let's do buy or sell with NFL. I think you have DraftKings pulled up.
I do, yeah.
Let's do buy or sell and tie it to who we're picking for division winners.
Division winners, I
and
like
place
that.
that future bet.
Yeah. Okay, let's start AFC North.
Okay.
Is where we'll start. So Bengals, Ravens, Browns, and Steelers. Bengals at plus 145, as well as the Ravens at plus 145.
So there's two favorites
Two
that's
favorites
tied.
there, yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
That is tough.
Because I think
It's so easy to pick the Bengals, depending on when Joe Burrow goes down.
Yeah.
It's like
And the thing is I kind of feel the opposite. I feel like it's so easy to go with the Ravens, but I think Joey B's coming back with a vengeance because, people have, quote unquote, forgotten about it.
I mean, like, obviously his wrist injury is a big deal in some sectors. I don't know if it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors, if it's actually going to be something that he is affected by throughout. He naturally is always, he's getting hurt a lot more than he's not. I suppose that Lamar Jackson, to a degree, would be. But I would say, for me, I would rather go on the Ravens side of things.
Well, let's do process of elimination.
Yeah.
You have two quarterbacks who have repeat injuries.
Yes.
Right? Let's say that cancels each other out. Mm-hmm. And then you have your next star is Jamar Chase,
right?
Who's also dealt with injuries.
Mm-hmm. And who's in a contract dispute right now. He might not even play in week 1.
And then the next best Raven would be the new Raven, would be Derrick Henry.
Sure. So running game favors
the Ravens.
For sure.
Because who's the Bengals running back? Zach Moss.
Mm-hmm.
So Mixon's gone. So Zach, I think part of me saying Bengals, but I think most of me saying Ravens.
I think most of me here is saying Ravens.
All right, Ravens it is.
Ravens it is. How do you feel about your Brownies? The over-under for the Browns, let me see if I can pull that up very quickly.
They might be good in an individual
wins.
bet. Yeah.
8.5 wins. Over-under on that, Brackstone.
I'm going to say over. I don't think it's crazy to think that they could get 9 or 10 wins, sneak into a wild card spot. I think it really all just comes down to Deshaun. Because
Did they almost win the division last year?
The Browns?
Yeah.
They didn't almost win the division. I think they were a couple games out, but they pretty easily got that wild card spot.
I swear to God, I thought they were kind of inching into possibly taking it.
No, because it came down to one of those last games against Pittsburgh. But either way, I think for the Browns, it really just comes down to, can Deshaun Watson play the entire season? Is he going to be healthy? And can he be 70% of what he once was?
Yeah.
Because there's enough talent and skill around them, and especially with the strength of their defense, I don't think the offense needs to be
You've got a
spectacular.
And you've got a coach who's seemingly not on a hot seat. Nick Chubb is going to be hurt until like December, so I mean, like, you're not relying on Nick Chubb.
I've heard he might be back in
He's only
October.
out for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
No,
He's only out for 4.
Really?
It's like until
All right,
week
well,
4.
Screw me then.
yeah.
But
So, I think there's hope. That I think that the Browns have great upside. I don't think that they're going to have a losing season by any means.
you can sell hope all you want, but Deshaun Watson is going to be the guy who sinks that season over and over and over again.
Yep.
So, the NFC West, I mean, I think we're obviously, there's some intrigue. Sorry, one more thing about the AFC North. Intrigue about the Steelers. They're not vying for a division win here. No. But interested to see what will happen kind of across the way. Will Russell Wilson resurrect his season under Mike Tomlin?
I'm not putting money on anything Russell Wilson runs.
Then what we have NFC West with the 49ers at minus 195, the presumptive favorite, obviously, because of all of their Super Bowl challenging every single year. Trent Williams signs another deal. They've got everyone locked up. Hopefully everyone can stay healthy. Brandon Ayuk signs the deal that was on the table for months. And for me, I would go and say go chalk on the 49ers here. I think that for me particularly, I think that the Rams are kind of a sneaky good team. I'm a little bit out on the 49ers. And who knows with the Cardinals? I would love to see the Cardinals do well. I think that like the mix of like a James Conner with a Marvin Harrison and a Kyler Murray and even Hollywood Brown's there, like, right? Like, I mean, it could be a fun team.
He's at the Chiefs.
Oh, he's at the Chiefs now. My bad. But I mean, like,
it lives or dies with Kyler.
Right. I mean, it could be fun, but I doubt it will be.
As far as the Cardinals go, they're going to be better than people think they are, but I don't know about winning a division by any means.
This is the easiest pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm down with choosing the 49ers, but mark my words, the Rams are going to be
a wild card team.
Well, they're going to give the 49ers a run for their money for the top of that division.
I like the Rams, and I want that to be true. But the thing that happened last year is with Cooper Kupp going down, nobody saw Puka.
They see him now.
They see him now.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's happening is like the same expectation that people have with the Texans. Like, that's not how it works in the NFL. You don't all of a sudden have 3 stars because you're taking the ball away from someone. And now nobody's flying under the radar.
Right.
So now you have Puka and Cooper Kupp. They're not necessarily playing decoy with each other. They're both going to be targets.
A good 1-2 team.
Neither are flying under the radar. It's the same thing with Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins.
Yeah.
With the Texans. I don't think it's going to work.
Sean McVay, one hell of a coach. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
And
Kyron Williams.
Yeah,
also.
Kyron Williams, if he, again, kind of a health issue there. But, yeah, I see that 9.5 wins over under there for the Rams, but still, again, chalk for 49ers. This one is an interesting division, and one that I think that I would very much like to argue about is that you have the NFC East, where the Eagles are favored to win the division at -125. Dallas just behind them at +170. The Giants way far out of there, and the Commanders actually at only +900 in that one. I would have thought
So
that
that's
would have been.
Eagles, Dallas.
Yeah.
And as long as Dallas has Dak on the team, my money is not going to Dallas.
But here is where I would like to challenge the possibility of Dallas. Because, again, we're talking about winning the division. We're not necessarily talking about how much further they go or anything like that. We know they can't win a playoff game or whatever. But is there the possibility that the Eagles could absolutely fall on their face this year? If they do, if Hurts gets either injured or doesn't live up to it, Sirianni finds himself in hot water after a few games. They don't have a very good, if I remember correctly, they have a pretty tough first month there as well. They're traveling to Brazil. That's one of those things. They could find themselves 1-3 out of a coach and directionless. And so for me, I think you put Dallas in there a little bit, you get a little bit more favorable odds. Again, we're picking every single division winner. Our odds are going to be huge anyways. But I kind of feel a little bit safer with Dallas, which is weird for me to say, but
I don't disagree that there is. I'm not saying that this is by no means a chalk pick for Philly, because Dallas is always going to be good. They're always going to be good enough.
yeah, the running game is old,
But
and who knows.
They
but-
always have a line, but who's their running back?
Right. I mean, they've got Dalvin Cook and Zeke Elliott. I mean,
Okay,
it's
I
not
don't
good.
trust that.
Yeah.
I don't trust that it's
You
Dak.
do have Saquon, and you have a very deep
And
running back.
that's what I think.
the
I think
Eagles.
what's sticking with us is how much the Eagles failed last year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that sticks with you. But Saquon has given us numbers with possibly the worst teams around him. He is running behind a top 3 offensive line this season for the first time in his career. I don't think you downplay. I think the fact that Saquon is running behind the Eagles
Still
O-line
got a good defense.
is going to be pretty fucking good for him and the team.
You think? Okay.
But I'm 50-50 with the division winner.
Yeah, as am I. And I root for the Eagles. I want them to be the division winner. I think that the playoffs are more fun when the Eagles are involved, and the playoffs are more fun when the Cowboys lose. But I will say that I do have a lot of similar opinions and thoughts as Pete does, and I'm torn.
Yeah. Let's come back to it. Let's
Okay.
finish it up,
Yeah.
and then let's see how our odds go, and then we'll make a little bit of an executive decision at the end there. So we're all out on the Giants, obviously. I'm a little confused why Commanders are at +900, but then we go to the NFC South, where the Atlanta Falcons at -130 to win the division. The Carolina Panthers, obviously we're all out on that at +1100. Then you have kind of a duel for second and third in the division with the Bucs at +320 and the Saints at +400. I think that the Falcons will be, I'm not going to say sneaky good because it feels like everyone's kind of picking that, but I will join that train and say that I think that they win the division.
I personally think that everybody is overlooking the Bucs.
I was just about to say Tampa Bay. I think people are jumping on this trend just because of the Atlanta interviews with the coach going, "Oh, Bijan is going to be used a lot." They have Kirk Cousins. Kyle Pitts will be the number one tight end.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Drake London.
Tampa Bay has a very consistent 1,000-yard receiver in Mike Evans.
Chris Godwin's
They
still
got
there, right?
Baker, Rashad White. They're well coached. Their defense is always really fucking good. I am not blowing past the Bucs
And
just like that.
Baker Mayfield is
On a new contract.
and he's one of those players where the last thing you want to do is doubt him, because as soon as you doubt him, that's when he turns it on. And I think that he's kind of coming into really the prime of his career. You know, you saw it last year, kind of taking them to the playoffs, getting that win over the Eagles. You saw it the year before that, what he did in that game with the Rams, where
Yeah,
he got
for
there
sure.
on Tuesday and won on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. No, he won on Thursday, I think, or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was crazy either
so
way.
crazy, yeah.
But yeah, I think the Falcons hype is a little overblown.
Overblown enough to
I'm not
give the
I'm
Bucs
not gonna
the
say
division.
it's that overblown. I think some of it is
Yeah, it's a little overblown.
it's just a little bit, because I think they're gonna have a breakout stars. I think Drake London is gonna be a name that you hear this entire season.
Yeah.
But
I think the question is, are they? We understand and agree the talent that they have on paper. The Falcons look like a team, but are they going to be able to put it all together with new coach, new quarterback, new everything?
Sure.
Year one, they're going to be able to put it together and win a division against a team like the Bucs, where they're established. They've been
Some stability there.
They've
Sure.
been there.
Yeah.
They
what's the,
they
what
know
are the
the
spreads here.
The Bucs are at plus 320 against the Falcons at minus 130.
Yeah. I personally, I'm going Bucs.
Do you want to go Bucs?
Well, I'm gonna be the deciding factor here because you're going Atlanta.
I would. I mean, again, I could be
I
swayed.
pick Carolina.
Fair.
Fair, do it. I could go either way. I certainly agree with you in your points. I understand. You know, you've got Kirk Cousins, who's not just a new quarterback with a new team, with a new everything, with a new coach. He's coming off of an Achilles injury,
And
you know?
he's 40.
And he's old, and he doesn't do well in prime time. He's a 500 quarterback, if not worse, when it comes to these big type of games.
Yeah,
So,
but then he gets replaced with Mr. Penis, and
yeah, Mr.
that could
Penis will
blow
take
up.
you to the promised land. So
I don't know. Let's throw a curveball in there. Let's go Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay it is.
And I'm not. I think that Atlanta is definitely one of those fringe playoff likely teams.
Yeah.
But
Here's what we can
think
rely.
Tampa
Here's
Bay-
what we can depend on. If this division winner bet doesn't hit because of this division, then we blame him.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's fair. Next is the AFC East with the Jets and plus 165 as the favorite to win the division with the Bills at plus 195. Right behind them, the Dolphins at plus 205. And then who even remembers why the Patriots are there?
That's between the Jets and Miami.
You think it's between the Jets and Miami?
And what are you gonna put the fucking Bills in there?
I don't know. I mean, they've got
Same shitty running game.
same
Less weapons for Allen.
Yeah,
Khalil Shakir is his number one receiver.
Curtis Samuel.
I am
actually.
so out on the Jets. I don't want to put the Jets in there. I have no interest in.
The Jets are going to be just think about the Jets last season. You lose Rodgers, and you still saw flashes because of how good
they still won.
and they still fucking won.
8
and
games.
they're
So-
10.5 is their over under.
Think of the whole time Rodgers was the quarterback last year. I mean, Garrett Wilson would have been a fucking 1,200 receiving yards receiver.
I need you guys to decide this one because my bias towards Aaron Rodgers is so deep that
you
I
can't
can't
make
be
a logical
I can't be
decision.
objective on this one. So on the opposite side, I've got a vested interest in Tyreek Hill doing well. I love Mike McDaniel. You know,
I think we can all agree Buffalo's not there.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but
he's a playoff Buffalo fan. Remember,
Who's the fourth?
The Patriots.
Patriots.
I'm going Patriots.
I personally would. I just trusting the Jets is. I feel like a bad decision.
I'm going Miami.
Yeah, if
Okay.
if that's our fallback,
I'm going Miami because if I did the process of elimination, it comes down to the coach.
Yeah.
And I will trust McDaniel over the other
Solid
coaches.
could find his way right out of a job,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
The NFC, I'm just going to skip the AFC West. It's Chiefs at minus 260.
Who are the other ones?
Then you've got the Chargers at plus 350. The
Broncos, Raiders, Chargers.
At plus 1,000, and the Broncos at plus 2,200.
I think I'll go Kansas City.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Actually, I think I'll go Kansas
The
City.
Chargers at 8.5 wins over under. How do you feel about that?
Under.
It felt
They'll win like 6.
I kind of felt that they'd be at like 6 or 7.5, but maybe the Harbaugh effect. I was kind of thinking, I was like, oh, maybe.
I mean, he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, sure is.
I think he's gonna. I think the Chargers are gonna be one of those teams where they're gonna steal, a handful of wins when they shouldn't. But I don't know about 8.5.
I think it's just the perception of the Chargers is they have no Mike Williams, no Keenan Allen, no anyone that you kind of watched the last few years.
Yeah.
So
You got Lad McConkey and Joshua Palmer.
They have a Baltimore Ravens running back core with
That's
Dobbins
always
and
hurt.
Gus Edwards,
Yeah.
who's always hurt. I think with
Plus coaches in front office from the Ravens.
the Chargers, the bar has just been lowered.
Yeah.
The expectations has been lowered. So anything exceeding that low expectation is like, oh, the Chargers did well.
I'm
I
kind
think
of
that's-
wanting them to suck so they can be like, oh, okay, you did better than I thought you were going to. Because I kind of have the expectation they're not going to do very well. But
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a rebuilding year. I think, the Harbaugh effect is a good effect to have, but we're not going to really see the fruits of that for 2-3 years.
yeah, the NFC North, the Detroit
Did
Lions.
you click the Chiefs already?
I did. I did that 5 minutes ago. Our odds currently through 2, 4, 5 picks is plus 64.74.
The
so.
smart move is to stop here.
Yeah, and then you get to the
Smart
NFC.
move would be to round robin this.
Yeah, is to the NFC North. Detroit Lions favored to win the division at plus 130, followed by the Packers at plus 230, and then right behind them the Bears at plus 280, and then the Vikings at plus 1100. How are we feeling? I am out on the Bears, mostly because, again, a little bit of disdain for Caleb Williams. New coach, or not new coach, coach going to likely be fired would be my guess if things don't go the way. They could even win. They could be like 2-2, and Matt Eberflus could find his way out of a job.
The Vikings are out of this because they don't have a quarterback.
Right.
I mean, it's Detroit.
Not
The Packers
necessarily.
are-
The Packers, it's like you saw the Packers last season, and yes, it's a surprise because nobody expected that. But Jordan Love is for real. Like Jordan Love is a legitimate starting quarterback that's a superstar.
He took the guys
That's real.
like Dobbs and who else? Christian Watson and those guys, and made them.
He didn't even have Christian Watson.
Right, he made receivers where Aaron Rodgers just threw his hands up at those guys.
So
Yeah.
and called
they're
them
getting
junk.
Christian Watson back. I think the one thing that would make me it's making me question it is what kind of a factor would Josh Jacobs be? Are we going to get the Josh Jacobs that we know?
Contract year, Josh Jacobs.
Contract year Josh Jacobs or Dalvin Cook done Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, and if we kind of take the same strategy that you've been talking about, process of elimination. Okay, we're equal on quarterback, right? We are, let's look at running backs. We've got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs once he's healthy. Well, are you taking those two guys over A.J. Dillon and Josh Jacobs? I personally would. Then we go to the receiving core. You've got Jamison Williams. You've got Sam Laporta. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown against Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and Luke Musgrave. I think
Jalen Reed.
Jalen Reed's going to be in there as well.
Yeah.
No, it's Lions because it comes down to the defense.
Defense,
And I will
right.
take the Lions D.
Yeah. And I mean, like,
I don't want
to get to the quarterback. Yeah,
I don't want to
think that's
overlook
right.
that the Bears do look good on paper, though.
Yeah, and I think the Bears are going to overperform. I don't think they're going to win their division. They might sneak in a wild card spot. But I think that's best case scenario.
Matt
for them.
Eberflus, does he keep his job?
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I don't
You
think
do?
I don't think that if they go 2-2, he's out.
After seeing the Bears in Hard Knocks, like, does it make you feel, like after I saw the Lions in Hard Knocks, I was just like, it took a year or two for that to get to fruition, but I was just like, hell yes for the Lions, right? Or how are we feeling after seeing the Hard Knocks?
Well, that guy should have been fired 3 years ago.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah.
Should have never gotten the job.
Could he be a factor into playing certain players or not playing certain players? Whatever. I look at that roster and I see DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert. I see Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore.
And I see Darvin Ham coaching them and not knowing how to coach players, like, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like you don't even know what to do with these guys. You gave him now all the tools, and now you're not going to know what to do with it.
Yeah, I don't think they'll win the division. I just don't want to overlook the fact that they're stacked on paper. They're pretty good. They put pieces around Caleb Williams that they didn't do for Fields.
Agreed.
I'll go Lions.
Lions 10.5 over/under is their win total.
Lions it is.
And then before we get back to what were we talking about? The NFC South. We've got the AFC South, and so the Texans, who are not sneaking up on anyone this year, favored to win the division at plus 105. The Jags at plus 250. The Colts at plus 340, and then the Titans at plus 1,000. Are we looking for a value play on the Jacksonville Jaguars, or are we thinking that C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs?
I would like to not just throw out Jacksonville, but they let us down last year.
They sure did, yeah.
They did.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they're good. I wouldn't be surprised if ETN fucking has a breakout year.
Yeah.
And,
I would sure hope
and
so
their
for my
coach,
fantasy
their
team.
coach, well, I trust their coach, but not only the receiving core that the Texans have and another year in experience with CJ Stroud, but they have Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon this year.
So I think the Texans are the pick for that one.
I am fine going that route as well. I've had, again, Jags let us down last year. I don't necessarily want to go back that way. And it's the NFC East, which is the one that we were.
Do we have everything picked?
We have everything picked. Right now we have the Chiefs. Hold on, let me go to the top. We've got the Ravens to win the AFC North, the 49ers to win the NFC West, the Chiefs to win the AFC West, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the NFC South, the Dolphins to win the AFC East, the Lions to win the NFC North, and the Texans to win the AFC South. That puts us, after 7 picks, at plus 30,896.
So Cowboys or Eagles?
So the Cowboys puts us to plus
that doesn't matter at this point.
83,000, and the Eagles puts us to. Hold on, let me undo that. The Eagles puts us to plus 55,000. So if we're all in at $20, so that 60 there would pay out $33,476 if we chose the Eagles. And if we chose the Cowboys, it would pay out, one moment please, $50,214.
I don't like that you did that because we can't base it off of how much money we could win.
Why not?
Because now I want the Cowboys.
Yeah. Why not?
Clearly, that completely affected the pick. Oh no, 17,000 more. We can't not.
We're just gonna give up $20,000.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if we're feeling like I am fine with either. I am honestly. We've talked about ad nauseum on this, but are we trusting Saquon, Jalen Hurts?
Who won it last year?
I believe did the Eagles end up winning it because the Cowboys?
No, the
shit the
Eagles
bed?
were winning it, and then the Eagles shit the bed, and the Cowboys ended up winning.
And then they played the Packers, and then they got their ass handed to them.
No, I think that the Eagles won because they played the Bucks that were the last place team, and they lost.
NFL records 2023.
The Eagles won. I'm
24.
almost positive.
Let me just make sure.
I had my own division bet on that, and I knew that I had Philly. And I can't remember if that broke it.
Division. We had the Dallas Cowboys winning the division.
Yeah, the Eagles shit the bed last minute. They had the lead. They had it won the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Eagles were 11-6. The Cowboys were 12-5.
Okay.
Make a decision.
I like the Eagles.
All right, Eagles it is. You okay with that?
That's $17,000. I like the Eagles.
All right. Eagles it is. $60, $20 from each, pays out $33,476.
I guess I'm fine with $10,000.
Yeah. Place the bet.
That's before taxes, dude.
Placing
We're
the
gonna get,
bet.
like,
I'm not even going to
$5,000.
think about it. The bet is
So
placed.
this is 60 total.
60 total.
Okay.
So.
Fuck.
Good luck getting that 20 out of me.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Let's go to week 1.
Just take it out of my
NFL
winnings.
schedule. Obviously, we have the Chiefs and the Ravens kicking off the season, and then we have the Packers-Eagles down in Brazil. And then both very interesting games. But if we go up and down the week 1 slate, obviously I'm super curious to see how the Bears are going to do with Caleb Williams.
Did you say tomorrow, Thursday night, is the Ravens-Chiefs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Friday is the Brazil game.
And then Sunday normal.
And then, then we've got Lions-Rams, a good game on Sunday Night Football. Jets 49ers will be Monday Night Football. Who really cares about Bucks Commanders, Chargers Raiders? Who cares?
I care about Bucks Commanders. I want to see how Jane Daniels goes.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
It's week 1. I
we
care about
them
all the games.
So, well, that's true. I shouldn't be such a pessimist. Here.
Yes.
This is 17. We only have 17.
Honestly,
we gotta
yeah,
cherish
we
and
gotta-
savor each week.
Just think about this. We're here tonight, Wednesday night. We're back together.
Season 5.
Week 1 of the podcast. We're boozing. We got wings on the way.
Yeah.
We go into tomorrow.
We've got $33,000 we're about to win.
And we go into tomorrow, game 1 of the NFL season. Probably got a few college games on as well. Great night. Friday, we got an NFL game. A few NCAA games in there as well. Saturday, full slate of college football games. Ever heard of Football Day? Because it's Saturday, baby. We're going to be with the boys, engorging ourselves on meats and beers. Then, hungover, Sunday, we're going to be plopped on the couch all goddamn day watching NFL games. That is
Who
just
needs that blue
And then
pill?
Monday,
Heaven.
we quit our jobs. So we're
Because
ready
we-
for Monday Night Football.
But we are looking at just absolutely beautiful next 4 days.
Can't
I'm ready.
wait, baby. Cannot wait.
Have one rack of ribs grilled, please.
Grill. Okay, fine, that's fine. Even in the St. Louis?
Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
But
I like a little tug.
it's going to be great. And I don't know about you guys. We can go into the week 1 games of the NFL, but it's like I just need to see these guys. I need to see these
buckle
boys
up
play.
and let's go.
Yeah.
And then we'll have
Dash my hopes and dreams.
we'll have Walsh in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
But-
his takes, get his bets.
Football is back, and so are we, boys.
Fuck yeah.
We need a different closing.
No, we don't.
I
I'm
don't
ready
think we
for
do.
it. I am so ready for it.
Do you have a recommendation?
No, I just said that out of nowhere. I just felt like new season, new us.
No.
No, we've been holding strong for
New season, same us.
this will be 4 seasons now in a row.
Yeah.
What was the first
like
closing?
the hotel. I don't think we had one.
We
You
did.
just said bye. You said love you guys.
Love you guys. Yeah.
I said mean it or something. But okay, I'm ready.
Clear eyes.
Full heart.
Can't lose.
Love that energy.
Good
Pete.
job, Peter.
Woo!
First time in 4 seasons, you nailed that shit.
Play like a champion.